Russian Defense Ministry says it fired more hypersonic missiles overnight in Ukraine, as well as cruise missiles from the sea. President Zelenskyy saying in his address this morning that the siege of Mariupol will go down in history for what he's calling war crimes by Russia's military.
And a delegation of U.S. lawmakers is in Poland this weekend, applying political pressure to equip and support Ukraine as it tries to fight off the Russian invasion. This ahead of President Biden's emergency meeting with NATO leaders.
As far west as Lviv, Ukrainians are getting training in weapons and first aid, with the war now well into week 4. And a significant assessment from the Institute for the Study of War, saying that Ukraine has defeated the initial Russian campaign in this war, but that could set the stage for a long and bloody stalemate. ABC's James Longman is in Lviv. So let's get right to the situation on the ground in Ukraine. James, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Will. All eyes are on that city, Mariupol, to the southeast of Ukraine, besieged by Russian forces. More than 400,000 people are thought stuck there. Russia is saying it's now firing hypersonic missiles into this country, cruise missiles as well from its ships in the Black and Caspian Seas. And all this as President Volodymyr Zelenskyy remains defiant.
Overnight, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy with a powerful address directly to the Russian people. What have they done to you in these past years that you don't care about your losses, he said, speaking in Russian, claiming an astonishing 14,000 Russian soldiers had now been killed in the fight. You haven't forgotten the words son, mother, father. And he went on to call Russia's siege of the southeastern city of Mariupol a terror that will be remembered for centuries to come.
Some 400,000 people are thought still trapped there, much of it burning in ruins. New satellite images capture the destruction of the airstrike, a before and after of a theatre where officials say up to 1,000 people could still be trapped under the rubble. They're warning to the sky, the word children written on the ground, apparently ignored. This Mariupol police officer pleading for help, saying the children and elderly are dying. All this as Russian forces have broken into the Donetsk region, its military leaders touting the destruction of more than 1,400 Ukrainian tanks and armoured vehicles. Russian commanders also say they launched a hypersonic missile for the first time in combat.
The Russians really didn't need to use this missile. They're being forced to shoot from inside Russia. The Ukrainian Air Force is making it too dangerous for them to come in over Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy calling for urgent negotiations, speaking directly to Moscow, saying it's time to meet. This, as Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced Saturday that Beijing and Moscow are boosting bilateral cooperation. That's just one day after Biden's nearly 2-hour video call with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. And in Cherniv, officials confirm U.S. citizen Jimmy Hill was killed in an artillery strike.
He was reporting that the bombing was getting worse, that it was getting closer, it was getting more intense.
Efforts to provide aid for Ukraine ramping up. Reports that billionaire Elon Musk's Starlink satellite system, hovering in the skies above Ukraine, is a game changer. It's now keeping a huge portion of Ukraine online.
A private company is essentially keeping a country at war connected to the rest of the world. It's extraordinary that he's able to do this because he's not doing it for the government.
In the US, gun makers are helping Ukrainians fight back. Adrian Kellgren's family-owned gun company, Keltec, was holding a shipment of semi-automatic rifles after a long-time customer in Ukraine went silent during the Russian invasion. Keltec donated those 400-some rifles to the country for its defense.
We're able to support them in a way to supply them with what they need.
Now, Ukrainian officials say they believe that Russian forces have used the weekend to regroup and resupply their own forces. Remember, they're still bearing down on the capital, Kyiv. But if this invasion has stalled as badly as many seem to think it has, perhaps that opens the gate for these peace talks to have some hope of succeeding. Eva?
James Longman for us there in Ukraine. And joining us now is our military contributor, retired U.S. Army General Robert Abrams. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. So let's start. Where exactly do things stand right now on the ground in Ukraine?
Eva, good morning. I think what we're seeing is what we call in military terms that the Russians have exceeded their operational reach, which means they've outrun their ability to provide themselves intelligence, logistics, indirect fires, and so forth, and that close support that's necessary to be able to sustain the offense. They have generally stalled, if you will, in the west towards Kyiv, in the northeast, in Kharkiv, but the Russians have made some progress in the south and in the southeast. And so we're seeing, I wouldn't call it quite a standstill, because at the same time, we're hearing many reports now of Ukrainian forces conducting counterattacks to push the Russians back away from their initial objectives. So I would not classify this as a standstill. I think this is still a full, all-out raging battle for the defense of the Ukrainian people and Ukraine.
This morning, the Institute for the Study of War assessing that Ukraine has, quote, defeated the initial Russian campaign in this war, saying Russia doesn't have the forces to take the major cities, including Kyiv. That seems pretty major. Are there any signs Russia is starting to shift its focus?
I think that declaration, and I haven't seen the analysis behind it, but I think that declaration would be premature. Russia still has more tools in the toolbox, and they're already calling in reinforcements, if you will, from other parts of Russia and from 4 other stationed Russian forces in other countries. And we should fully expect that Vladimir Putin is going to commit those additional forces towards his primary objectives, to include Kyiv. So I don't sense any shift in the Russian strategy or in their focus areas. Vladimir Putin is determined to replace the current democratically elected Ukrainian government, and the only way he can do that is to take control of Kyiv.
General Abrams, thank you so much for your insight this morning.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.